Neon, please. This is important. I'll get to you later. Good evening, Coral City, and good morning, Trenches. Tonight, we have the story of a young man, a man named KAEL. Like most of us, he was discarded, left here to rot. Well, he had finally taken control of his life in a language I think a lot of us speak very clearly. This is the story of how KAEL died and how the rat inside him emerged, jacking you in now. Alright, Neon, come on.
This is KAEL Log 1. I found the old recorder amongst the things as I moved my apartment. I'm one of the last left in this place, so I figured I would record. My psychiatrist a few years ago had told me that this would help. I guess it helps, but maybe it just reminds me of how alone I really am. I live in apartment block S765. Psychiatrist was the only person who ever cared what I had to say. But when the elect kids moved in, a new gang, he vanished. This city isn't nice to nice people. No one here is. Log 2. I'm finding my life hard to focus, but for the first time, I'm happy. I saw her outside my building. She was sifting through the trash, her hair the color of rust, augments protruding from her body violently as if each one was fighting for dominance. When I locked eyes with her, I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. Then she waved, a genuine wave. An explosion down the road had caught my attention, and as I looked back, she was already gone. I can't stop thinking about her. On my way back from work, after the foreman had grilled me for hours, blamed me for the loss of a few lug nuts, I found a gun in the street. I will not relay where my mind went to at that time, but I worried about what was going to happen to my body. I wouldn't want to inconvenience anyone with the cleanup. But as I sat in the highest floor of the apartment complex, which was now my room, it had running water, which was amazing. I looked out from the bathroom window. I don't know what possessed me to do so, but there she was, under the silk clouds. I could see her, standing under a pale yellow light. She was holding a severed arm. It was fresh, augment fluid dripping from it. I waved down at her, terrified, but she turned and smiled, her sharpened silver teeth glistening under that light. And she waved back to me, waved back with the severed hand, and then she ran into the darkness. But then she looked back. I think perhaps she wanted me to follow her, but I was too much of a coward. I did not. I decided to stay away from work today. I figured the foreman was going to slap me with an indentured servant notice. The lug nuts, he was still on a tirade about them. 5 years I'd be serving now under him. 5 more that he'd be making me work for free. I didn't think my life was worth a whole lot, but worth nothing more than a few bolts. It's making biting a bullet feel a lot easier. But then, as I was wallowing in my own pity, there was a knock at the door, a light tapping. At first I worried, I dreaded that perhaps the foreman had sent enforcers, someone to make good on the promise of the indentured servitude. But I could smell something behind the door, something horrid. When I opened the door, it was the first time I had ever seen how tall she really was. That's to say, she wasn't really that tall. She was a head shorter than myself. Her body was slightly hunched over. The metallic, augmented spine that stabbed through her clothes in a violent, jagging motion went all the way down her body, touching the ground. moving slightly like a long tail, I invited her in. She had brought me food, foul-smelling food, but I ate it nonetheless, and once it was all gone, I noticed that she also smelt of something horrible, but she smelt amazing. For the first time in my life, I had shared a meal with someone. Shared space with perhaps somebody that didn't want to yell at me or tell me what to do. I had memories of the poor psychiatrist, and I didn't want her to suffer the same fate. And then something amazing happened. Within moments, we were entwined. I don't even remember the conversation now as I write this. I tried to remember, but it was all a blur. All that I remembered was the taste of her breath, the taste of aged diesel, and her body felt like a pillowcase stuffed with grease. At that moment, all I knew was there was no one in this life happier than I was. The next morning, I awoke to her playing with the gun I had found. She examined it, tapping it with an almost expert fashion. I asked her what she was doing, and she replied to me. She asked me to come back with her down into the city below. She said I would be free. I was a fool for a moment, as I just realized what she was. She was one of the rats. Those that had been told to me by everyone with a mouth. They were the boogeymen, but I wasn't scared. I had been scared of gangs and gangers all my life, even though she was the most terrifying thing I had ever seen. I did not feel fear when I was with her. I felt empowered. I told her that I could not, that I was indentured now to the Foreman. Her mind drifted. Her eyes narrowed, and then she turned back to me, as if mirroring my own inner thoughts. Then let's kill the fat man. She spoke, the words coming out of her mouth, almost difficult for her to speak, as if talking was a second language that she barely understood. I hate to admit it, but I wanted to do what she said then and there. I wanted to be with her. I'm not a killer. I've never wanted to kill anybody or harm them. I've simply wanted to live. But the Foreman has given me no choice. He has taken so much from me now, that fear that he'll try to take her from me. So I must do as she asked, as she recommended. I have to kill him. I do not want this happiness to go. I want to be with her forever. I want to be with someone that actually wants me around. As you know by now, perhaps if you've read this journal, my name is KAEL. I was augmented at 10 years old, my memory wiped clean. I used to dream that I was a scion of a rich house, a powerful family, discarded by mistake, that perhaps one day I would be rescued. This was a fantastic lie I told myself. This journal is my confession. Tonight I am returning to the factory. I'm going to kill the fat man. We're going to drag his lifeless corpse down into the darkness. It is time for him to feel like nothing but scraps. It's time for him to feed me. I'm not a cruel person. I just want my happiness. By the time anyone hears this, I will be long gone. I will be with her and with my new family. I will be one amongst the rats.
KAEL'S story is as unique as it is as old as time itself. To find a place where we belong is the dream. Often, our whole life is the simple pursuit of such a thing. I do genuinely hope that KAEL has found a family, a place to belong. I fear that perhaps it was all a guy's intentions of one person creating a crueler person from within. Regardless, it gives us a lot to think about. Who are the rats? What do they want? Why will some strip you for parts while others wave at you? This has been Ink. This has been Ink and Neon. Hope you have a good night and good luck. Matt, Dad, I can't hear you. Matt, don't.